What's good, Joe? I've got some really nice buffs and changes for Dodrio, partially in the form of a very unorthodox and questionable type change. I think it's super cool. At first, I actually really didn't like it. It was one of my friends was telling me to do it months ago, but it's very much grown on me since then. I like it a lot. I think it fits well enough, at least for ROM hex standards. It also makes him stand out far more from the other normal and flying type Pokemon, of which there are many. He is also literally a flightless bird, so I think ground and flying fits. You know, his whole thing about like running and you could even get into the whole sand stuff there too, but its color scheme, it's a reach, but I think it's cool enough. I actually heard other people mention this as well, that they like this idea, so if you don't, I don't know what to tell you, I'm sorry, but if you want to use a normal flying type with Defiant, there's Pidgeot. If you want to use a normal flying type with Reckless, there's Staraptor, so like, just go and use those if you really wanted something else. But Dodrio, ground and flying, much better offensive combo, very, very good dual stab. But before I get into any more of these, the nuances of these buffs and changes, I want you to check out the description down below. There is a link to the same Google Sheet I'm sharing on screen right now, and you can check out all 600 plus move buffs and changes. The Google Sheet is very interactable. It takes me a lot of time to format all this stuff and make it look all good for your convenience. So, you know, let that work go somewhere and actually, and you know, bookmark it if you want to look at it. Subscribe to the channel, all that type of stuff. But yeah, this Google Sheet, very, very important, especially the move sheet, as you can see on screen. You know, you want to click, okay, recoil moves. Okay, what do those do? And you can see all these new recoil moves. Or I would honestly, if you're completely new here, I would recommend just scrolling in order and just reading it, because like I put it all into order where it makes sense anyways. But there's all types of categories. You know, you can search by type, anything you want to do. Either way though, Dodrio, Reckless, very fitting ability. Defiant, very fitting ability. Defiant is buffed in this hack in the regard that there are, not only are there way more Intimidate Pokemon, Intimidate is a pretty damn common ability in this hack. Moves like Parting Shot are extremely common. Basically like 80% of the decks learns Parting Shot via TM. So those two are already buffs enough of a buff, honestly. But there's even more to it than that. There are dozens of stat dropping moves in this hack. For the player, those are useful for the entire game. For the AI, they'll be more useful for the early to mid game, and then towards the late game they'll start to use stronger attacks than these like weaker ones that have drawbacks, not drawbacks, stat drops. But it depends on the Pokemon, of course. You know, like a bulkier mom would still really like to run these as the AI. But AI, the thing is, the reason these are so good for the player is because the AI doesn't know how to switch out unless they're using a switch move, right? So besides a couple of specific trainers can actually hard switch out, but it's very unpredictable and rare. But my point here is, the AI doesn't know how to like switch out. So when you use it, when you get a stat drop on the opponent, it's forever, it's permanent. So that -2 attack, you know, is permanent. Their attack is halved, and then obviously if they have a crit move, which are very common in this hack, there's a whole category on the Google Sheets to look at all those crit moves. In this case, you get stuff like Drill Peck with the 50% crit rate, and you have First Impression via TM, which always crits as well. So those are some crit moves that you'll have, but most Pokemon get like at least one, usually several moves that will always crit, especially physical attackers, because of First Impression. So those will bypass Intimidate. But side tangent aside, Defiant's a great ability. Reckless, however, has tons of new options. So if you click this link here, you can see all the new Reckless options. It links you to an ability called Headstrong, which is just Rock Head. But you can see all them here, and of course they're also on the Google Sheet in their own category, or on the move sheet. But you have Stab, Headlong, Rush late game. That's very strong, but I'm going to go in chronological order of when you get Reckless moves. So upon evolution, you'll have Double Edge, which is only normal type, but it's very strong, 150 base power, you know, 0 drawbacks. For that point in the game, it's pretty strong. Level 28, you'll have that for the end of Akala Island and the early part of Ulu Island. I wouldn't keep it. I mean, you might not even want to teach it as soon as you teach it, but, you know, it's useful for a little bit at least. Play Rough, Rock Climb, Takedown, and Wild Charge are the real, like, when it starts to get really good. Those are all 110 base power, so with Reckless, those are 132 base power. And Shell Bell is actually buffed as well. I should probably write that here. Yeah, I'll actually say, keep in mind, Shell Bell heals 20% of damage dealt. I'll actually put that there, because I know people don't like remember all these changes because there's so many of them. I get it. Extend that down a little bit. And maybe bold it. Yeah, that's pretty great. Yeah, that's... like, it just makes, it probably doesn't make that much sense to put it in the Headstrong section, but it's whatever, because this is the ability that prevents the recoil. But Reckless especially really appreciates that buff. Shell Bell, Play Rough, and also Pokemon in general just appreciate that. Play Rough, Rock Climb, Takedown, Wild Charge, very good. Triple or quadruple coverage moves there. You know, you can cycle between those via TM, which is really good because you don't have access to Movie Learner until the end of the game, so you can just run those TMs and swap them whenever you need a specific coverage move. Via Level Up, however, you get... Oh, my ear just started ringing super fucking loud. Jesus. That's like distracting. Brave Bird. Good old Brave Bird. 150 base power with Reckless. Dive Bomb is actually flying type high jump kick. I should probably link Reckless to the actual recoil move section, shouldn't I? I'm too lazy to go change it all. It's whatever. I'll just leave it for now. But yeah, flying type high jump kick. You get actual high jump kick as well, and then you have Headlong Rush, which is your ground type reckless stab, and that is 180 base power reckless. It's a very strong move. Again, you're only taking 10% recoil if you do run a shell bell. Otherwise, you're taking 30. And then in a Harkon Nuzlocke, you'd probably want the shell bell. And then yeah, you also have good immunities with to ground and electric as a ground flying type, so you can actually get a lot of switching opportunities despite being a relatively frail Pokemon. So that's really nice. You have very good speed stat. Keep in mind you're not guaranteed max speed IVs or a plus speed nature, so 125 isn't as great as it might look. For example, a base 100 speed Pokemon can probably outspeed you depending on your IVs and nature on the opponent's team, since they have max IVs and a plus speed nature. That's just a hypothetical, but yeah, that's definitely worth keeping in mind. Overall, though, you have tons of great coverage moves via TM. Megaton kick for a stab, 120 base power, 90% accurate, no drawback besides the 10% accuracy miss, which is a pretty big deal in a Hardcore Nuzlocke. You would probably want to run Wide Lens. For example, Wide Lens plus like Megaton kick plus Dive Bomb is really nice. Plus triple kick or high jump kick. Those are like those 3 or 4 moves that work really well, as well as Gunk Shot, which is 110 base power, 90% accurate. Headbutt, Health Thrust, 100 base power, 95% accurate, so those work well. Rock Slide, Blaze Kick, also 5% chance to miss, so those all work really well with a what am I trying to say? With a wide lens. Sorry, I've been like bulk recording like 8 videos in a row, so I start to get fatigued, but I just want to get them all out of the way. Overall, though, he's fast. He's got good utility. You got reteachable Roost, which is nice. Despite the fact that you're not the bulkiest thing, you do have a good typing for defensive use, and you have Feather Dance and Roost and other good utility moves like Parting Shot. So you can actually run, utility Dodrio for certain fights. Obviously, it depends on your other teammates. Obviously, offensive sets are still going to be the main use of Dodrio. You're just going to be clicking buttons with him. But overall, very fun buffs and changes. Defiant, like I said, is buffed in this hack inadvertently, not intentionally. Reckless, very good recoil moves that you can choose from now. Reckless, like I said, is somewhat useless until the mid-40s, though. Your only option is Double Edge until you get access to the Play Rough, Wild Charge, Rock Climb, Takedown TMs. Sandforce is a bit of a weird choice on Doduo, but I didn't know what else to fucking give it for the early game. Sandforce is like kind of useful. You have rock moves like Rock Tomb and steel moves like Metal Claw, and then of course you have Ground Stab. So it's not the worst thing in the world. Your main Ground Stab will be relatively low base power, Stomping Tantrum, which is 75 base power, but it's not terrible, first of all. And you'll be getting access to Drill Run once you get to the Ula Ula Beach Tutor, which is 105 base power on a crit, and it crits half the time, so you can use that with Drill Peck and Scope Lens and always crit if you want. Or you can basically your ground stop options are either a little bit inconsistent or kind of low base power up until Pony Island, which is when you'll learn Megaton Kick. Sorry, which is when holy crap, can't talk. It's when you'll learn Headlong Rush and then Megaton Kick via TM. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a downside to the ground type, because not a lot of ground type moves make sense. Like I'm not giving him fucking Earthquake, and even that's relatively late game. That's 8th Foundation anyways. And Seismic Fist doesn't fit him. Obviously, he has no fists. So it is what it is. That's just kind of a downside. But it's not like those are weak moves. And also ground stab is good enough regardless. And of course, you have high base power flying type stabs, so it's not all bad. And good coverage moves. So yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like this type of thing, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Shout out to you if you listened this far into the video. I appreciate it. Peace, y'all.